I didn't keep the message because I couldn't erase it. I kept it because I had to remember the exact moment my marriage flatlined. No more intimacy. Deal with it. That's all she wrote. No build-up, no explanation. Just a digital slap across the face. I must have stared at that message for 10 minutes, maybe more. You ever see something so out of place that your brain just stalls? That's what it was like, trying to force betrayal into a space meant for trust. At first, I actually thought she'd been hacked. Or maybe it was some twisted joke. But Heather wasn't the type to kid around, especially about stuff like that. And especially not lately. I didn't reply. Just sat there on the edge of our bed, staring blankly, letting the phone slide down onto my lap as my mind started unraveling everything. Not just the last few days, but the last few months, hell, maybe even longer. I couldn't pinpoint the exact moment the warmth left our marriage, but it had been dripping out like a leaky faucet. Quiet. Constant. Easy to ignore if you weren't really looking. Clearly, I hadn't been. Heather and I had been married 8 years. The first few? Solid. We laughed. We made plans. We mattered to each other. Then life crept in. Work stress, silent dinners, missed date nights that never got rescheduled. I chalked it up to a rough patch. Figured we'd find our way back. But somewhere along the line, she saw the silence not as something to fix, but as permission. And so, with one casual text, she decided to rewrite the rules. No conversation. No honesty. Just a command. Like it was her right. She didn't even try to soften the blow. That night, I said nothing. She came home late, tossed her keys in the bowl by the door, nodded like I was a stranger, and disappeared into the bathroom. I heard the water running. For over an hour. When she finally came out, her hair was still damp, and without a glance in my direction, she walked right past me into the guest room, tea in hand, as if I didn't exist. And that's what it felt like. Like I was no longer part of her world. The bed felt massive that night. Not just in size, but in silence. A cold, yawning space where connection used to live. But I didn't chase her. I didn't knock. I didn't spiral into self-blame or pour a drink to numb the ache. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, heart hollow and eyes wide open, thinking, all right, so this is how it starts. The days that followed didn't bring some big cinematic shift. I didn't pack a bag or hurl my wedding ring into the sink. It wasn't dramatic, it was surgical. Clean cuts, small removals. I stopped asking if she wanted anything from the store. Stopped checking on her when she looked irritated or zoned out over her phone. Stopped pretending her coldness was just a bad mood that would pass. It wasn't that I stopped caring. I just stopped running after someone who clearly didn't want to be caught. For years, I believed that if I just gave more time, more patience, more support, more space, then things would turn. I thought maybe one day she'd look at me the way she used to. Like I was enough. But when someone draws a line in the sand and says, deal with it, you'd be a fool not to listen. She believed she could shut off affection and still collect loyalty. Like I'd just keep circling around her, grateful to be in her shadow even if she never acknowledged me again. But something cracked in me that night. Not shattered. Not ruined. Just opened. Like a door I hadn't noticed before. And once it opened, I saw things differently. About a week later, her phone started going off more than usual. Different tone. Different energy. She'd chuckle at messages I didn't send. Claim she had to stay late for work, team events, networking nights, whatever excuse fit. She smelled like perfume again when she left after dark, but couldn't name a single function she was attending. I started noticing things. Not with anger. Not yet. Just awareness. Her phone never faced up on the couch anymore. An unfamiliar number popped up once and she swiped it away like it burned her fingers, throwing a quick glance my way like I wasn't supposed to see. But the most obvious sign wasn't digital. It was Tessa. Her best friend since college, the one who always seemed to know too much. Lately, she was around constantly. Dropping by with wine, whispering in the kitchen, laughing a little too hard at things I wasn't invited to be part of. I'd always liked Tessa. Trusted her, even. But lately, she felt different. Too involved. Like she wasn't just witnessing this unraveling, she was part of it. One night, after I'd gone upstairs, I heard them in the kitchen. Low voices. Then laughter. And I caught a phrase that hit me square in the chest. Finally put him in his place. That was the moment I knew. Whatever this was, it wasn't just distance anymore. It was strategy. I didn't catch the rest of what they said. I didn't need to. The line wasn't just drawn, it had backup. And now I could see exactly who helped her draw it. But I didn't blow up. Didn't stomp downstairs demanding answers. Didn't even finish the scotch I just poured. Instead, I walked to my study, opened my laptop, and started typing. A list. Not just any list, a record. Quiet. Intentional. Deal with it? All right. Let's. I didn't flip a switch and become someone else overnight. That's not how this works. It was slower. More deliberate. I started matching her energy. No fire. No fury. Just subtraction. I stopped making myself available. Not in a petty, scorekeeping way. Just pulled back. If she was done with affection, I was done with convenience. No more checking in to see if she'd eaten. No more surprise takeout when her day ran long. No more weekend errands where I tagged along like a sidekick with a wallet. And I quit fixing things. The kitchen drawer that always jammed? Still jams. The flickering bathroom light she'd remind me about every week? Still flickering. The day she finally asked, I looked right at her and said, "You're clever. I'm sure you'll sort it out." She didn't like that. But she didn't argue either. That was the strange part. No fights. No blow-ups. Just this eerie, sterile politeness. We were like two people stuck managing a business that no longer turned a profit. Then one morning, she looked up and said, "You haven't made coffee the last few days." I just shrugged. Figured you wanted space. She paused, then turned away without another word. It's wild how someone thinks they can rip out the emotional wiring of a relationship and still expect the lights to stay on. Like pulling a beam out of the frame and being surprised when the roof caves in. I wasn't after revenge. I was after clarity. Tessa kept showing up. Too often. I'd come home from work and find them curled up on the couch, wine in hand, giggling like teenagers. They'd look up when I passed through, Heather with a polite smile, Tessa with that smirk that said, "Say something." I dare you. I didn't. Because by then I was documenting. Not obsessively. Not like some tinfoil hat psycho. Just facts. Nights she got home late. The way she dressed on certain days versus the stories she told. How her work events always seemed to land on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And then came the dinner. It happened in the break room at work. Denise, a coworker I barely talked to outside small talk and coffee refills, looked up from her phone and said, "Hey, pretty sure I saw your wife the other night. Was that you with her at that rooftop sushi place?" I kept my face neutral. Just shook my head. "Nah. Haven't been there in a while." She looked puzzled. Weird. Looked just like her. She was wearing that green dress. That green dress. I knew it. Heather wore it when she wanted attention. It had been MIA for months. I hadn't seen it since the last time she actually cared about being seen, by me at least. I shrugged. She's got good taste? Denise gave me this awkward half-smile like she wished she hadn't said anything. But I didn't regret it. Not even a little. That was the moment the last puzzle piece snapped into place. That night, Heather came home late again. Looked distracted. Her heels clicked through the door before she kicked them off like they'd betrayed her. Bag hit the floor, no hello. I was standing at the counter eating takeout straight from the carton. Something I hadn't done since our first year together. She clocked it right away. Looked at the food, then at me like the whole picture didn't compute. "You didn't cook?" "Nope." "Oh." She hesitated for a beat, waiting for something, warmth, an invite, maybe just the usual check-in. I gave her none of it. "Just one casual, long day?" She nodded, rubbing her neck. "Deadlines?" Then she glanced at the wine rack like she wanted to escape inside a bottle and walked off. I kept eating. Every bite tasted like quiet vindication. Over the next few weeks, I shifted gears. I didn't make announcements, I made changes. Stopped wearing my ring. Told her it was too tight since I'd been hitting the gym more. Which was true. I dropped 12 pounds, gained definition in places she used to trace without thinking. Now she didn't notice. Or maybe she did. Maybe she just couldn't admit it. I started working late. Not because I had to. Because I wanted to. No explanations. No apologies. Some nights I'd hit a bar after work, nurse a drink, and just watch people. Laughing, flirting, trying. At least they were trying. Heather? She wasn't trying at all. Not with me. Not with herself. Not even with whatever facade she was trying to keep alive. She expected affection she no longer earned. Demanded comfort she never offered back. And I was done bleeding love into a relationship that only took. But the real trigger, the thing that flipped the switch for good, came late one night. Something I wasn't supposed to hear. Something that changed everything. She thought I was asleep. Upstairs. I wasn't. I come down for a glass of water. Quiet. Half asleep. But I froze halfway down the stairs when I heard her voice from the kitchen. "I think he's finally getting it," Heather said, her voice low, almost amused. "He's pulled back. Cold as hell lately." Then Tessa chimed in. "Good. Maybe now he'll realize how much he depended on you. Maybe he'll finally appreciate what he lost." And then they laughed. It wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel. Just this soft, smug little laugh, two people enjoying a private joke. But I wasn't laughing. I stood there in the dark, hand wrapped around a glass of water, listening to my wife and her best friend treat my silence like it was some sort of punishment they designed. Like I was supposed to crumble, come crawling back, just to earn back the attention she'd ripped away. That was the moment I stopped seeing this as a relationship. It wasn't about love anymore. It was about control. She thought she could dangle affection like a carrot and I'd keep jumping for it. Thought silence would break me, but I wasn't broken. I was done. And when I finally moved, they wouldn't see it coming. About a week after that night, Heather's behavior shifted. Subtle at first. She started watching me more carefully, like she couldn't quite place what was different. I'd answer her questions with short, even tones, and she'd pause just a second too long trying to read me. One night, she asked, "Is something wrong?" I smiled. "Nope. That's the thing about silence. You hold it long enough, it starts to echo." And she was finally hearing it. Her routine didn't change, not right away. Still took those long showers. Still came home late with vague excuses. Strategy meetings, Tessa's place, brunches that never seemed to involve food. But her confidence? It was thinning. I could see it in the way she lingered at the door, double-checked her hair in the mirror, hesitated before saying goodbye. Then came the invitation. She asked if I wanted to join her and Tessa for dinner that Saturday. Like nothing had happened. Like we were still in the kind of place where shared meals with her conspirator made sense. I didn't even look up from my laptop. Can't. Got plans. She didn't ask what kind. And that's what made it perfect. She used to not care. Now she didn't know. And that uncertainty, that unfamiliarity, it unnerved her. 2 days later, Tessa showed up. Unannounced. Overconfident. Too casual to be innocent. I was home early, tightening up a loose cabinet door. Not for her. Just needed the drill and couldn't remember where I left it. Doorbell rang. I didn't check the peephole. She walked in like she owned the place. Hair pulled back, sunglasses resting on her head, and that same smile, hovering somewhere between polite and calculated. "Hey, stranger," she said, scanning the room. "Heather home?" "Nope." She looked disappointed but not surprised. "Oh, thought she might have left early. We were supposed to go over some party stuff." I just nodded and turned back to the cabinet, the drill humming in my hand. Tessa leaned against the counter, arms crossed like she had all the time in the world. "So, you two doing okay?" That's when I turned and looked straight at her. No smile, no politeness, just calm, clear eye contact. "We're doing whatever she wants us to be doing," I said flatly. Tessa tilted her head, and something flickered in her eyes, like she found the whole thing mildly entertaining. "She says you've been distant, ice cold." "She's observant," I replied. Then I added, "Takes one to know one." Her brows went up. "You think I'm cold?" I didn't hesitate. "I think you've been throwing gas on a fire she lit. And now you're shocked it's burning." There was a pause. Her posture shifted slightly. She stood up straighter. The confident gloss in her expression thinned just enough to notice. "I was just trying to help her," she said, less sure now. "You've been emotionally unavailable for years." She needed to find herself again. "No," I said quietly. She needed someone to feed her ego. She wanted to feel powerful. "And you? You just wanted a front row seat." She didn't argue. Didn't need to. The silence said enough. Then came a little bitter laugh. "Well, you're sharper than she thinks." "I'm done playing," I told her. "Whatever game the two of you had going, it's over." Tessa looked at me then, really looked. Something behind her eyes changed. Regret? Maybe. Or maybe she'd just run out of lines. "You're not as dull as she always made you out to be." I didn't blink. "And you're not as loyal as she thinks." That landed. Hard. She grabbed her bag and walked out without another word. As soon as the door clicked shut, I pulled out my phone, opened the voice recorder app, and saved everything. Every word. Crystal clear. That night, Heather got home earlier than usual. She looked worn out. Not physically, soul tired. Like someone who hadn't slept in her own skin for days. She dropped her purse and hovered near the kitchen island. I ran into Denise today, she said softly. I didn't respond. She told me you've been looking good. Losing weight, dressing different. Still nothing from me. Then the question she was dreading came out anyway. Is there someone else? I let out a low laugh, not out of amusement, just reflex. No, I said. But you've definitely made room for someone, haven't you? She blinked fast. Like that hit a little too close. What the hell is that supposed to mean? It means you don't get to be shocked when someone stops showing up after you lock the door. She stepped forward. You're twisting this. You shut down first. I shook my head. Calm. Unshaken. You ended intimacy. Over text. Remember? Deal with it. That's what you said. Her mouth opened like she had a comeback loaded. But nothing came out. Because she knew. And this time there was no laugh. No denial. Just silence. There was a flicker, just a flash in her eyes. Not guilt. Not regret. Doubt. The seed had been planted. She didn't know how much I'd seen, how much I'd already collected, but she could feel it. And Tessa? She wouldn't stay quiet. People like that never do. Truth doesn't explode, it leaks. It peels back slow. And this was just the start. There's always a moment in every unraveling where the one who tugged the first thread finally realizes the whole thing's coming undone. For Heather, that moment landed on a Tuesday. She came home early again. That alone was suspect. She lingered in the doorway longer than usual, like she was prepping a monologue. Her purse still slung over her shoulder, her expression frozen somewhere between nervous and numb. Can we talk? She asked. I closed my laptop, set it down. Sure. She perched on the edge of the couch like it might bite her. Hands folded, knees tight together. Her whole body buzzed with tension. I thought for a second she might break down or blow up. Instead, she went with this. Tessa said you threatened her. I laughed. Not loud, just enough. That was her lead? I didn't threaten her, I said. I told her I knew exactly what she was doing. She's been a good friend to me, Heather snapped. No, I said. She's been a mirror. You just liked what you saw. Her mouth opened, then closed. No rebuttal ready. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, met her eyes directly. Do you want to know what she said about you when you weren't around? What she asked, caught off guard. I recorded it, I said. You want to hear it? Your good friend bragged about pushing you to pull away. Said you needed to shake me up. But she wasn't helping you. She was feeding herself. She liked being the voice in your head. The one with control. Heather stared at me. Frozen. Like a wire just snapped. She laughed at you, I added quietly. Said I was sharper than you gave me credit for. Said you made me out to be dull. No, Heather whispered. Her voice shook. You're twisting this. No, I said calmly. I have the recording. There's nothing to twist. She leaned back, staring at the wall like it might explain something. Her hands trembled. Maybe from anger. Maybe from the slow, dawning fear that the ground beneath her was finally caving in. But I wasn't done. Remember the green dress? I asked, voice casual. The one you wore to that work dinner? Her head turned fast, eyes wide. Funny thing, I said. My coworker saw you. Said it wasn't a group dinner. Said it was just you. And some younger guy. Tall. Rolex. She opened her mouth, but no denial came. And that silence? That was the real confession. Let me guess, I said, keeping my voice flat. Tessa pushed it. Told you to do what made you feel alive. Said I'd never find out. Still, nothing. Just silence. So here's what's happening, I continued, standing steady. I've already met with a lawyer. The papers are being drawn up. What? Her voice cracked. You're ending this? I tilted my head. You already did. I'm just closing the tab. She stood up like being closer might change my mind. We can talk about this. I didn't mean for her. I stood too. Calm. Measured. You meant every word. You typed them out. Hit send like it was nothing. Like a grenade. And I caught it, read it, and walked away from the blast. She looked unmoored. Like the script she'd been acting from had just gone up in smoke. And then for the first time in years I saw it. Regret. Real, gut-level regret. But regret's not redemption. It's just what's left when there's nothing left to fix. Tessa twisted things, she tried again. She said you were shutting me out. She said a lot, I cut in. But she didn't send that message. You did. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I didn't think you'd stop loving me. That one landed not because it hurt, but because it was so deeply, pathetically revealing. You never wondered what would happen if you cut off affection. You just assumed I'd keep showing up. The silence between us was heavy. I did show up, I added, voice softer now. Through your distance. Through your silence. Through every half-truth and shutdown. I gave you what was left until you told me not to. Then I walked past her. Where are you going? She asked, panic now rising. Upstairs, I said. Moving into the guest room until the divorce is finalized. The attorney will be in touch this week. You're divorcing me over a text? I paused at the bottom of the stairs. Looked back. No. I'm divorcing you over everything that followed it. The next day she called in sick. I heard her sobbing behind the bedroom door. Heard her pacing. Heard her talking to someone on the phone. Probably Tessa. Didn't matter anymore. That bridge was ash, too. A few days later, I got a message from an unknown number. It was Tessa. I never meant for it to go that far. She needed a wake-up call. I didn't think she'd self-destruct. I didn't reply. Some betrayals aren't personal, they're just selfish. But some endings? Some are exactly what they're owed. Heather didn't fight the divorce. Not really. She protested, sure, mentioned counseling, asked if we could salvage things. She even cried one morning in the driveway as I loaded a duffel into the back seat. I told her I'd be staying with my brother for a while, and I didn't look back. But it wasn't real resistance. It was panic. That desperate kind that shows up when someone finally realizes the leash they've been tugging on wasn't tied to a pet. It was tied to a man who had just figured out how to bite through the rope. The last time I saw her before the divorce was finalized, we met at a quiet coffee shop, neutral ground, halfway between her office and the lawyer's. She came in wearing a blazer and sunglasses even though the sky was overcast. The self-assuredness she used to wear like armor? Gone. She looked like someone showing up to an interview she knew she wasn't qualified for. She sat across from me, stirred her tea 3 times, never touched it. Then finally said, I miss you. I let it hang there. No reply, just silence. She tried again. I think I got in my own head. I listened to the wrong people. I don't know why. I just started feeling invisible. I nodded. So, you made me feel invisible too. That wasn't what I meant to do. I know, but it's what you did. The pause between us stretched until it felt like a wall. Then she finally took a sip of her tea. I noticed her hands were shaking. I didn't sleep with him, she said. I looked out the window. You don't have to say that. But I didn't, she insisted. I thought about it. I was going to. But I got to the hotel, and I couldn't do it. I looked at her, met her eyes. You still chose to meet him. She didn't argue, didn't have a defense, just quiet. And that's when I realized something that stuck with me more than anything else. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the intent. She had already crossed the line in her mind long before her body ever made a move. And she didn't pull back out of love. She pulled back because she got scared. Fear isn't love. It's hesitation. I'm not angry, I told her. I'm done. She looked like she wanted to reach for my hand, but she didn't. We were good once, she said. Yeah, I replied. We were. And that was the last real thing we ever said to each other. The divorce slid through clean. No kids. No drama. Just some shared bank accounts, a car each, and the house. I signed it over without a fight. Surprised her. But I didn't want it. Not because I couldn't afford it. Because I didn't want to live inside a ghost. That house was a memory emptied from the inside out. The morning I handed the final signed paperwork to my lawyer, I walked out of the building and just kept walking. No destination, just motion. Passed by cafes we used to linger in. Stores where I bought her birthday gifts. Even the old theater where we slow danced in the lobby after a rom-com once made her feel romantic. None of it hurt. Not anymore. It didn't feel like a loss. It felt like distance. Like I was watching someone else's life. Someone who had tried, stayed loyal, loved hard, and finally walked away before losing himself completely. 2 months later, I ran into Tessa. Of all places, it was a bookstore. She looked different, thinner, worn out. She smiled when she saw me, but it didn't reach her eyes. Hey, she said. You look good. Thanks, I replied. You don't. She gave a small, tight smirk. Fair. Heather hasn't really spoken to me since everything, she said. Guess I managed to burn 2 bridges. You played with fire, I said quietly. Sometimes the match burns you back. Tessa nodded, slower this time. I wasn't trying to destroy you too. No, I said. But you wanted a front row seat while she did it to herself. That's not friendship. That's just performance art. She looked down, quiet now. Then she said, you know, she still talks about you. Says she thought you'd chase her. She didn't think you'd actually walk away. She was wrong, I said. Good. And I left it at that. No dramatic exits. No one-liners. Just the soft sound of a door opening and the heavier sound of nothing left to say. It's been almost a year now. I've rebuilt quietly. Joined a hiking group. Learned how to cook for one without feeling alone. I've started dating again, not chasing anything, just living. Enough to remind myself that life didn't end when she stopped being in it. People sometimes ask why it ended. I just tell them we stopped being partners. Because that's the truth. Underneath the betrayal, the silence, the text message, what broke wasn't just love. It was the bond. She stopped having my back. And I stopped being willing to beg for her front. Intimacy isn't just about touch. It's in how you speak to someone. How you look at them. How you choose them over and over even when it's hard. She chose ego. I chose peace. And in the end, I didn't lose anything. She did. She just realized it far too late.